Hello to the chicos and the chicas. Today I'm going to present you another snippet, a quite large one actually, from a private lesson. In this video I'm going to talk about again about an anchor game with my student Daniel before we actually analyze the game he was played by him, and we are going to do some comparison, and I think it's actually better if you watch it rather than listening to my clumsy explanation as to how these two are going to come together. So without further ado, let's get started. My anchor game theory is simply a concept whereupon I recommend students or people who learn any opening at all that alongside your opening, I very highly recommend you to try to memorize at least certain parts of a very famous game that was played for that opening, with the purpose that if you run out of ideas or if you find yourself out of book, then you go like, okay, but this is all cool because I remember that I have seen something like this in Kasparov Wojtkiewicz, where Kasparov did blah blah blah, and it was all fine and dandy. The most recent example on my channel for this is those two Benoni videos, where I actually explain in great detail how what I did on the board was largely coming from my anchor game, which for that opening was a Korchnoi-Kasparov game, where Kasparov did some absolutely insane stuff, and I really liked it, and I memorized it so that I knew the motives and the ideas. The reason why I'm giving you this big spiel before we get into your game is because I have got an absolutely marvelous game that I'm going to show you now for you to keep as your anchor game for your English attack with e5.
Okay.
And this anchor game was played between two Hungarian grandmasters, Andras, Adorjan and Zoltan Ribli. Both of them world champion candidates on their own rights. And in fact, this game was played as a 6 games match between the two to decide who would become the world champion candidate in that particular cycle. And as you can see right off the bat, the opening is exactly what you had.
Yep.
Okay, and I'm going to show you and explain to you why the knowledge, or at least the vague memory of something like a game like this, can help you immensely when you are out of book in an opening. So h4 was played here, and then white played h5. I would like to ask you, Daniel, to try to reflect on this based on what happened in your game. I don't know if you remember how you conducted the pawn storm in your game, but in case you don't, I'm telling you that in the game that we are about to have a look at, you played g5, and the black was already castled, the knight dropped back to e8, and then you continued the pawn storm.
Right. Yep, I remember that.
So in this game, however, white is playing h4 first, and then h5. What is going on here? Why is this being played? Why is white not playing g5 first?
If you play g5 first, the knight could go to h5 and stop, at least for a while, the pawn push, the h pawn push.
Very good, Daniel. Very, very good. So that was actually the motive that I learned from this game, even though technically this has never really become an anchor game for me because I never played the English attack. But when I saw this game, it made such a long and strong and lasting impression on me that I remembered it nonetheless. And that was this beautiful idea of pushing the h-pawn first to deny this, by the way, absolutely stock standard idea. This is the most common procedure for black to throw the spanner in the works in the e5 line of the English attack, that they put a knight here, stopping the pawn storm forward. And in fact, in this knight b6 line, black even quite often plays f5, and after on posse and rook takes back, they even start playing against the pawn on f3 and the weak f4 square, believe it or not. And so Adorjan went about preempting it entirely by playing h5 first.
I see. Yep.
Now I'm going to show you the entirety of the game because it is an absolute marvel. Knight c4 was played, take, and actually, I want you to conduct the attack, Daniel, for white here, so just so that we practice this a little bit.
Hmm. Okay. Um, yeah, it seems like we can start with the pawn storm, or continue with the pawn storm at this point with
Of
g5.
course, like
Yeah.
as legendary Ben Boy would say, what else? Like it's a must. Absolutely.
Right.
Like no
Right.
brainer. G5. Right. What now?
Right. Right. This is where it gets a little more complicated to me as to what's most accurate. Um,
Okay, I don't want you to spend a lot of time on calculating, which is not something you would hear from me very often, so please enjoy while it lasts. Tell me, please, a couple of moves that your gut's telling you to do here for white that look really good on a superficial level, just based on looks.
okay. Um,
Like, no
hmm.
calculation at all. Please do not calculate. Just spit moves at
Okay.
me.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I would consider uh, um, h6, g6, rook, or well, let me be more specific. Rook dg1.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe queen. Mm, don't want to consider queen g2.
Okay, that's plenty enough for
Yeah.
me, Daniel. You,
Okay.
you painted the picture for me, so you named this, and that's great. Now, I have made a
Hmm.
very recent video about pawn storms, in which I explained very thoroughly, or I hope at least I did, the purpose of the pawn storm, which is primarily to eliminate your own pawns so that you have open files to work with.
Right.
That's the number one goal that we seek to accomplish when we run our pawns up. As a side
Hmm.
effect of doing that, we almost inevitably are going to compromise the opponent's king's defense. That's a secondary goal, if you will.
Hmm.
Right? Now,
Right.
having heard that, h6 is immediately ruled out because that accomplishes the exact opposite of what they wanted to do. That
Right.
closes the position and creates zero open files. That is like
Right.
the absolute worst thing you can do to yourself. g6 in strong contrast generates a position where it's inevitable for black, no matter how they respond, to create open files. Now, in the game,
Right.
Rook G1 was played, and I'm going to explain to you why in a bit, but actually the game itself is going to be the best explanation. They played Queen C7, and we played G6. They played Rook C8. Actually, I'm lying, the game is not explaining this to you. I think that the reason why he played Rook G1 first...
Oh.
Okay, so the reason why I did this is because I think after G6, there is actually a very slim chance that take might give me a bit of an escape route. It looks horrid, but it is something that I would contemplate doing with black, given the situation. And also F5 may be a move, but I do think that this gets shut down real hardcore with this.
Mm.
When really now the black king is going to be blast open like there was no tomorrow. But all of these scenarios seem to be far better for white after rook g white for after rook g1. And the point is that black's attack doesn't exist on the other wing.
Hmm.
And so it's one of those rare cases when we can argue, despite my initial instinct, that we can actually pretty up our pieces before we go in for the kill. Because
I
simply
see.
black is helpless. So they played queen c7, g6, rook here. And here Adorjan played an absolute ripper of a move. The stock standard idea here is to either take one of the pawns and then h6, or h6 immediately.
Okay.
Note that very often when we take, black doesn't even take this but hides behind and tries to create a situation like this where, remember what I told you about open files, now we only have the G open and that seems to be fairly well fortified.
Yep.
So here the attack is not at all obvious whether it's going to succeed or not.
Hmm.
Which is why very often in these pawn storm scenarios, white likes to throw in h6 without engaging with either capture in order to ensure that the h file gets cranked open. For example, takes, And now we want to go in for the kill here, and very often also by means of rook takes h7.
Right, right.
This is pretty wild stuff. Like, I give you an example variation here. Bang, check, takes, check, and this is all over Red Rover.
Yeah.
This is gonna be, as good old Morris Ashley say, it is Matutsky.
Yeah, this is really helpful to see all these patterns
It
and ideas.
is
Yeah.
Matutsky. So there is that. However, we also have, that was an unexpected follow given that I am not streaming, or I didn't think I was. He followed it up with another banger, which was this.
Ooh.
And the idea is the exact same, Daniel, that we want to crack the files open for the heavy boys. And as always, we take no notice, none whatsoever, that this hangs a piece. We don't care.
Right.
In fact, that's warmly embraced because we want to take that.
Right.
And now after takes h6, queen takes h6, the queen is involved in the attack in a way that is simply not manageable or tolerable by black by any means. So bishop f6 was forced. Takes h7. King takes, and this is where the fireworks kicked in. I'm going to show you this now because I would like to save some time for you. The mind-blowingly beautiful idea is bishop takes. Note again that no prisoners are taken when it comes to material. We are going after the king. Takes and h6. Now it looks like we are actually failing to succeed with the attack because the h file is blocked. So can you tell me the devilish concept that, well, actually it's the same move against bishop h8 and queen bishop here. No, not quite. Actually, bishop h8 is met easily or easier with forcing wins. So let's see if you can figure out, Daniel, how we can ensure that mate is incoming here.
I'm looking at rook g7 check.
I really like your thinking, sir. I really do.
Okay. So rook g7 check, bishop takes g7, h takes g7 check, and where would the king go? King could try to hide behind it, so maybe king g8.
Very good. Keep going. I want mate.
Yeah. Let's see. Queen h6.
Is that a check, Daniel?
No.
Nope. So that's not your first priority.
Okay. Well, we have rook h8 check.
Yep.
And then so king takes g7 is forced, I believe. And then we have maybe queen h6 check, and that's mate, I believe.
No, you don't believe that, Daniel. You know it for fact.
That's fact. Yeah.
That is a fact. Now, I don't know if you can hear this, Daniel, but I'm going to press a boomski.
Okay.
Did you hear that? I don't know if it went through. No, never mind. I played an audio because I appreciated your marvelous effort there in calculation by playing an audio that says boomski.
Oh, nice.
Which is my way to recognize awesomeness. One of the many ways. So indeed, rook g7 is a forced mate. And for this reason, black here actually played bishop f6. What on earth is the difference?
We had bishop h8 in the previous line, right?
Correct.
Okay. Difference. Oh, I lost the...
Sorry.
Oh, there we go. That's okay. Well, the difference here is after rook g7 check, the king can go to h8.
Exactly. And that actually puts a massive dent in our attack because it seems that the king is pretty secure on h8.
Yeah.
So in this position, rook g7 was not played, but instead a different checkmate pattern occurred, which is even more beautiful. And I'm curious if I could push you to try to work it out. The hint that I'm giving you is entirely useless, and that is that white's first move is not a check, which you already know because rook g7 is the only legal check, and I just told you that that doesn't work.
Okay. Okay. Hmm.
So in the round, Daniel, of checks, captures, and threats, once again, without calculating a single move, can you very quickly shoot at me 3 candidates that you would consider to be likely the best move here for white?
Queen g2. Um,
Actually, when I said 3, I think I was actually being unreasonable because other than queen g2, nothing really makes a lot of sense to me.
yeah, I was trying to figure something else out.
And
Yeah,
I'm
nothing fast.
super duper happy that you said queen g2 because we shall go no further. What on earth are we threatening with, though? Like, okay, queen g2 is pretty, but now it's time to calculate, man. What you doing?
Right, right. Um, hmm. That's a good question.
So the textbook case, Daniel, is that imagine it's your turn again. How would you proceed?
Right.
And again, you are back in the loop. Checks, captures, threats.
Yeah, so uh well, that has to mean a sacrifice. Queen sacrifice. I
Well, that
believe.
that personally excites me to no end. I hope the same applies to you.
Yeah, well, yeah, I just hope I'm getting it right when I say that because because if you're wrong, obviously then you lose the game, right?
Well, if you are right, you're winning it. So
Okay, yeah. Okay, so Queen G2, we have then 3 checks to choose from. G7 and G8 are the ones that I would look at. I'll start with G7 because I don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen.
okay.
So Queen G7 check. Oh, we're just assuming some silly move by Black after Queen G2, right?
That's right.
To
For the
see how
time
this.
being, we are actually assuming a null move. So we just are checking if we even created a threat. Because if we establish that we do have a threat, then it's a lot easier then to reverse engineer what Black's response may be. Or how they can best meet that. So let's carry out the calculation with Queen G7.
Okay, Queen G7 check. Bishop takes G7. Rook takes G7 check. And King H8. Um,
That looks like a
hmm,
sizable failure, yeah?
yeah. Not seeing
Okay.
anything.
Where did we
Yep.
go?
Oh,
Where did we go wrong in that line?
um. Oh. Well, we don't have to check again on G7. So after Queen G7 check, Bishop takes G7, we could go H takes G7.
But that's a check, Daniel.
Right. That's good, right?
Well, yes, it is good, and it would have been good if you noticed that.
Oh, right. No, yeah, I was just assuming that we were. I don't know. I don't know what I was assuming. I was just going with the same idea of checking with the rook on G7 again.
Yeah, now, so the point is that h takes g7 is a check.
Right. Right.
And as
Um,
such, a game ender. But I will let you do the honors.
oh, right. Okay. So after H takes G7 check, um, King G8 is forced,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have Rook H8 mate.
Goody. All it
Yep.
is left for us, Daniel, to do now is to establish how can black stop this?
All
After
right.
queen g2, that is.
Mm-hmm. I don't see how. Well, I don't see any way Black can can guard the g7 square on its next move.
Neither do I.
Yep.
Which is why after queen g2, Ribli called it a day and resigned the game.
Okay.
So my recommendation, Daniel, is that this is an absolutely perfect example of an anchor game for several reasons. The number one is that it represents an attacking idea to perfection. Right? Number two, it does so in a way that is very easily understandable and digestible. There was no mysterious shenanigans going on here with white. In hindsight, at least, you could understand all the attacking moves. Surely bishop h6 did come as a bit of a shock. But upon reflection, we must admit that it's complete carnage down.
Yeah.
And there was nothing black could do. And after bishop f6, this attack just broke through with elementary power. Another thing I would very, very highly like to recommend you or highlight to you is the idea that if the knight is parking on f6, in many, many lines, it is better to push the h-pawn up first to disallow the blocking of the pawn storm on h5.
Okay. So yeah, so that's interesting because all of the Najdorf lines that I studied in the quick starter typically have me, well, I think at least 3 out of the 4 in the quick starter have me pushing g5.
And they happen, Daniel, for a very good reason. But I would like you to investigate that reason now that you have seen this. I want you to go back to your line and try to figure out why it is that we go to g5. And I'm going to tell you, and this is, by the way, the ultimate way to understand your openings, which is what I'm a big believer of. Because if you, for example, play out some of the biggest lines, you will find that if we muck around for too long with g5, b4 is going to hit first.
Right.
And then black will have a wider range of opportunities to take on d5 to begin with, and also to accelerate their own attack on the other side. And so it is absolutely imperative for white to kick the knight on f6 as soon as possible against this more aggressive setup. But with having played knight b6, black was committed to a more positional way of treating it, where they wanted to trade a piece on c4 before launching the attack, thus allowing white more time to carry out the kingside pawn storm in the most optimal way.
I see. Yep.
That's the way how these pieces of information eventually become a whole. Right, so now we are looking at your game, senor. Have you received my gentle request in regards to your homework?
I did. I did have a 2 or 3 minutes to kind of review it again. I think I know.
Was my question too cryptic?
No, not at all.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure I felt it in the game. There was 2 moves I think in particular that I didn't like that I made, and I think one was definitely bigger.
We will get to that I suppose very, very soon. So g4, queen c7, king b1. I wasn't so sure about this, but I will let this slide. I didn't feel that it was necessary at all. You could have just continued your attack with either g5 or h4. And by the way, this is a textbook case where you should go h4 because your opponent is playing weird moves that mean that we delayed the b5, b4 progression. And hence, I slightly dislike this and would prefer...
Because...
Oh, hang on a second, wait. No, actually, I don't think so. I believe I stand corrected because rook d8 announces the threat of d5.
Right.
And so that means that the knight must be kicked.
Right.
So actually, anchor game here or there, you did the right choice, or you made the right choice, rather, by playing g5, disallowing the d5 break. So actually, that's great. Having said that, this was absolutely atrocious by your opponent.
Right. I could not understand. I mean, I was already calculating lines against knight h5 or knight d7.
Yeah, by far the worst knight retreat. By far.
Right.
Okay, so I don't know about knight d5. I would be more tempted to just carry out the attack.
Okay.
Because I'm almost, thinking that black's only legal move here is b5, after which their only legal move is b4, which is going to mean that black spends 2 moves to force what I want to play anyway. Because once again, I'm going with Mr. Feingold. Like, what else? Like, what else is there other than b5 e4 black?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I could spend that time on advancing as far as I can, then b4 hits, then I go in, and now I'm ready to completely wreck them.
Right.
Okay, we went 95 right in. Oh my, wow. Yeah, that is something else, man. It
really is.
That is something else. I mean, they had to. And actually, once again, to give you credit, given that they had to go back, actually 95 is quite largely justified. So, yeah, we can maybe ignore what I just said then. Knight d7, h5, great. Knight f8, g6, absolutely loving you, Daniel. So, this is the part of the game that I like the most. This was the uncompromising, vicious attack. Now, in light of what I told you about the various breakthrough mechanisms, can you please tell me here a range of candidate moves that you would consider? Without calculating.
Right. Well, now that after we've reviewed that, so what I didn't consider in the game, but would now is h6.
And Daniel, that was the music to my ears. That's all I wanted to accomplish with that game, is that now your mind has been opened up to another idea within the same concept or within the same realm, which is pawn storms. That there is this way to try to go about business too, in order to ensure that this file is going to be cracked open. I'm not saying this is bad. All I'm saying is that there was an abundance of choices there to pick from. Take the... B6.
I could not understand that move.
Yeah. So the story, Daniel, here is, and this is where I'm a little bit like, okay, this is how we are going to improve on this, is that as soon as this lands on your board, you already have taken note of at least 5 moves that black played very poorly. Yeah?
Right.
In an opposite castled king scenario where you are conducting an absolutely vicious attack. So, without putting unnecessary pressure on yourself, Daniel, you actually, in my book, absolutely must conclude that this game is going to finish in the next 10 moves.
Yeah, that's what I thought here.
With a checkmate. Or, you know, like absolutely severe material losses. Like, if this goes into an endgame of any kind where black is meaningfully in the game, that means that we royally messed up. Like, I would anticipate from this mate, first and foremost, or at least a rook up in the end of fireworks. At least.
Yeah.
And since neither happened, this is where we need to step the game up. So let's see. Queen g2. Great. Rook c8. Please explain to me the choice of the rooks here.
I just, with both pawns, both 2 h pawns, of mine on the h file, I didn't think it was going to be opened anytime soon. So I thought that I would put the h rook on a more active file.
Okay, so having seen the anchor game, Daniel, has that altered your view on this, or you're still thinking that you chose the right rook?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a silly question to ask, Daniel, because in fact, in the game, the H file opened up in a matter of 5 moves. So actually, the game proved you wrong already, so you didn't need my anchor game for this. So you have got double feedback on the fact that there is no way that this is the correct rook move, especially if you consider that this rook does bugger all here. And I can give you myriads of scenarios where the H file is going to open up in a meaningful fashion. The game itself is the most notable one. Hello? If you had your rook here, Daniel, this would be the moment when your opponent resigned.
Okay.
Right here, right now, if you had had this rook on h1, I guarantee you that would have been the moment when your opponent would have gone, I have had enough. I mean, let's play this out just for comparison's sake, right? rook here, knight here, takes here, h6. I mean, I have an extreme deja vu with my anchor game because the h5 mate is exactly the same.
Right. Ah.
But
so that's probably what was...
that aside, like, it's all over, man. If I chuck the engine on, I'm only curious about the... Well, the only reason why we don't have force mate is because they can sack the house away and, you know, walk away,
right.
funnily enough, with a rook minus.
Right.
But other than that, that's it. It's mate.
Okay. That actually helps me understand why it was so difficult for me to find checkmate as a, you know, as a way forward, because I was like, as the game progressed, you know, after that rook move that I made, after moving the h rook to the g file, I was like, what did I do that made this so hard? I was like, there has to be a mate here somewhere, and I couldn't find it, and I was really upset that I couldn't. And
well, I
yeah.
really hate to rain on your party, Daniel. Like, this is where I am coming across as the major jerk. But the reason for that was not this move. That is yet to come.
Okay. Yeah, and I think I know what you're referring to, but still, I didn't realize that rook move was a significant.
Oh, it certainly was.
Yeah.
It certainly was.
Yeah.
It certainly was. And I really want you, Daniel, to develop that kind of attacker mentality where you go like, there's a no-brainer that I'm attacking down here and here, so why would I move this rook here, especially when this rook is entirely jobless. But let's move on. Let's move on, because this is complete carnage. So your opponent played bishop f8 here, which I guess is a respectable proposition. Ironically, one of the most obvious moves that I would look to do here is this.
Yep.
And after king here, I would be following up with this, with the idea of queen h7 check. And I really didn't think that our anchor game would be this powerful, but tada. I have never in my life, Daniel, nailed an anchor game as well as this one. Not even for myself.
Wow.
And this actually occurred to me this morning in the car as I was driving back home, that I'm going to put a bit of a spin on your game with the anchor game. Like, this is, again, all kinds of mates, so queen c2 is going to be forced. But let's move on. You took g7, which I would label to be probably the second best move. But before we proceed, Daniel, you need to tell me what your homework was and what conclusions you've come to.
Oh, so yeah, okay. So after this move, he played. This is where he played bishop f8, right?
Yeah.
And then so bishop f8.
No, I'm asking Daniel now to recall what I asked you to do as your homework.
Oh well, it was the allowing a queen trade. What I felt was the biggest mistake.
Yep, so my question to you was that what would you label in this game as your greatest strategic mistake? Or blunder, I don't know how I worded it.
Okay, yeah, it was, strategic blunder, I think, was how you worded it.
Yeah, I tried to be gentle, so hence the blunder.
Well, okay, so I thought it was several moves later. But
well, it doesn't matter when it happened. It totally is irrelevant. But it happened right here.
Right. Yeah, so this is where I thought you were referring. So this was, I forget what. Oh yeah, so I played.
You went check.
Rook h1.
They
King
went
g8,
here,
right?
and then we went rook g1.
So so the rook dg1, I felt was the biggest strategic mistake because that allowed for the queen trade, and I should have probably played queen f5.
So Daniel, what I really need to hammer home here, real hard, is that in what realm would you even remotely consider a queen trade in a scenario like this, where A, it's an opposite side castling scenario, where B, we are attacking like mad, 3, we broke through and the opponent's king is entirely naked and in fact is a half move away from losing their queen, and 4, we are in the midst of the most vicious attack you have created in the past 20 games you played. And then
Yeah.
we slap all of this across the face as hard as we can by going like, queen trade? Sure.
Yeah.
Like, this, Daniel, should not have occurred to you as your first in your first 20 candidates.
Right.
And what I really don't want to hurt your feelings, but I think that there are about 20 winning moves here for white, which is virtually every single queen move that avoids the trade. Which is, of course, not 20, but 1, 2, 3, 4. And they are like, it's not like it's, oh yeah, and then you attack. It's like plus 15. Like, what I really would like to hear is that, because it had to be based on calculation, like, it must have come to you as an utter disappointment that you had to actually accept a queen trade. So is there, I really hope, that there is a line, at least one, that was contrasted with the queen trade, and you picked the queen trade because the line you calculated didn't work.
Yeah, I mean, I just...
Like, queen h5. I am being very honest with you. I don't understand how this is not going to be mate in the next 3 moves. Like, I'm 100% genuine that I just don't see how it is not going to be instant mate.
Yeah.
And I'm trying my hardest.
I don't know why I was considering... There it's like plain as day. I was looking at queen f5.
Okay, fine.
And,
Queen f5. How is that not mate?
Okay, so yeah, I was thinking queen f5, queen f7, rook dg1, check, knight g7 or bishop g7, and...
You do realize that there are checks coming in here.
I miss those.
But Daniel, that is beside the point. If you don't think that this is a winning attack, then we really, really need to rewire all over again and again and again your concept of what is completely winning and what is playable. Like, this is a raging attack with all your pieces against a king that is utterly exposed on open files versus a completely dysfunctional army. Like, this is so winning that here I'm contradicting myself, and I would love you to not calculate for a second. Like, you should be feeling insulted that this is still happening. Like, why is the guy not resigning? It's mate. Get out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, there is no way. Like, this should filter you to play rook g1. You should go like, if my move is rook g1, I would rather not play this game. That should be your attitude to this position. That if white trades queens, I'm not interested in this anymore. I walk away. That's just silly. I'm not part of that nonsense. And yeah, like I said, any queen move followed by rook g1 here is just absolutely terminal. And if you think about it, Daniel, the logical sequence of events here takes such a hard break, a fracture in, like, there is no logical narrative anymore in your game. You started an aggressive opening, castled opposite sides. You ripped your opponent's king completely naked from defenses to then trade down to an endgame. And by the way, whilst you did all this, you sacrificed nothing. Like, you gave up nothing at all, so there was no incentive to compromise at all.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So when we are thinking, Daniel, that we are making your chess far more aggressive and that we are making progress, yes, we are. But you are at the very, very beginning still of this journey of trying, or of understanding and correctly evaluating what it really takes to attack correctly. And the reason why I'm surprised about this, because you are a gambiteer. You play gambits, where you sacrifice material for bugger all comparison or comparatively, and you know that trading queens is a cardinal sin. Right? So here you should be like swimming, like fish in the water, because you didn't even have to sack. And they are far more dead than any gambit could ever allow you to do so. For funsies' sake, I'm gonna chuck on the engine. I mean, yeah, the second best move is still plus 9.4, right? But you get the point. We don't need the engine to justify that this is horrid. Anyway, I was immensely proud of you for winning this, because when I saw this, I went like, oh boy. Oh boy. This is not gonna be good. And unfortunately, I was right. Like you actually went on to become from +10 to clearly worse. Which, by the way, is really the most logical outcome really to happen in a game when we fail to cash in on an absolutely vicious checkmate attack. So let's see how it went. So far, so good, by the way. Your endgame technique here is fine. Your opponent keeps on blundering as he has been doing so from get-go. So it's all G. Yep, great. I was not entirely sure about this move, though. Was it to prepare this?
What was my reasoning?
Because if so, I am for it, but it doesn't seem so because you didn't play A4.
Yeah, I guess I just didn't want him to play. I think I didn't want him to play Rook A3.
How would they play Rook A3 if I go here?
Oh no, I meant if I played. I thought you meant like why did I play B3 instead of B4?
No, well that was one question, but I am actually more than happy to accept the reasoning behind B3 that it was played in order to advance the A pawn before we advance the B1. I like that.
Yeah,
it's a really awesome idea. But what we need to be clear on, Daniel, is that you need to push these buggers up, right? That's your plan.
Right.
Like we have got two connected pass pawns. So whoopsie daisies, I don't know how I did that. That's your win condition, right? That we promote these dudes.
Right.
So we need to push them. Now B3, perfect move, mate. You want to go A4, A5, then B4, B5.
Yep.
And push the heck out of these pawns. So I don't know this move. I don't understand it, and I'm worried, by the way, too, that we walk into a discovered check. It's a distant possibility, but it's there nonetheless.
Yeah, I was a little worried about that too. I guess I thought like I needed my king to shepherd them up.
But do you? I don't know. Do you?
No.
I don't think so, right? Because after A4, you're gonna play A5 guarded by the knight. If they come here, you can play King C2, and again A5, B4, and the knight covers both. So you were good to roll. But okay, let's move on. This is not biggie. Okay, B4, fine. I guess King B3, King A4, Pawn A4 is coming. I'm all happy as I can get. Yeah, great. F5, King B3, great. F4, not great. Bishop F2, Rook F7, A4. At this point, I was supremely happy because I thought that this game was going to be over in a matter of minutes again. Knight F6.
Yeah.
Okay, we go. E4. We take. Fair. There. Bishop E1. Yeah. I guess you wanted to cancel out knight D2 check, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Not the cleanest because now our knight is going to get an E5 square, C5 square. So I'm thinking if there was a more prudent way to go about the business here. I want to show you one tactical idea, Daniel, though, because it just needs to be seen. So I am already looking to liquidate this position into an endgame type that is even simpler to play and even simpler to calculate. So what I'm looking to do here is that I'm already looking at eliminating this, eliminating an extra rock, and basically just reduce the number of black pieces that can cause problems, and then just run.
That's what I was thinking about too. Unfortunately, I was I already was low on time here, and I felt like I needed to be able to calculate the number of moves.
Look, this is where the killer comes in, because obviously my calculating ability helps me to get out of trouble real fast, where for you it is probably a bit of a stretch. But what I look at here is that I play B6, and if E4, then I take, and B7 and see ya. And literally that's how long it takes. And then I double check which takes another that much, and I'm pulling the trigger. And contrary to what you think, it is actually time saving. Because now we played out a 5-move sequence, which by the way added time to my clock. We simplified the position, and no matter what black does, we are going to end up in this endgame, which again is super duper easy to win, because although this pawn is a pest, it's perfectly blockaded, and this is running.
Yeah.
So there is no difficulty whatsoever, and contrary to what a lot of people of your level and especially lower think, this is not risk. This is the risk-free way to win. Because what I'm doing here is I'm simplifying the position, shortening the game, and eliminating counterplay. The risky play is when your opponent's pieces come to life, we are going backwards, and they are blockading the pawns, and they are given a pass pawn that is not blockaded. This has got risk written all over it with capital letters.
Yep.
Right? So that's why I'm saying that at this point, you are looking to liquidate, to simplify. And as much as it's a paradoxon, usually simplification comes at the cost of you having to calculate something that may look a little bit complicated. But to be fair to me, I don't really think that this is a line that was particularly challenging to calculate for, you know, anyone. It's I take, they take, I take, they take, pawn up, queen.
Yep.
Yeah?
Yeah, no, that was pretty straightforward.
So you see that the more you train your mind to be like this, and I'm doing this because I hate this game to get longer. And you would hate that too, right? So we are pursuing the same goal, but the tools are slightly different. Okay, let's move on. Whoa. Okay, so you are not interested in blockading this pawn because of 94.
Yeah, so I think I saw that. So yeah, bishop f2, knight d4.
And I have to give you that it's very fair. In fact, for the first time, and this is what I told you earlier, which was probably taken as a mini comment, but this game did turn around.
Yeah, it did.
And that's purely because of the queen trade. But let's move on from that now. Yes, and we had to go in.
Right.
Oh boy, just by the skin of your teeth.
Yep.
Oh my god. Wow. I mean, Rook G1 is something else. Not sure if Black had anything here. I thought that earlier on I saw something quite promising for Black here. But maybe we were not actually out of the contest. No, never mind. I don't know what I saw. But yeah, Rook G1 was... It had to come as the greatest sigh of relief, right?
Yeah, I was really surprised. Really surprised.
Yeah. But to be fair to you, once the pawn is blockaded, these guys are rolling in like crazy. But you have generated way too much counterplay, and as a result of that, way too much nervy situations for yourself that you normally would have liked to stay clear of.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Bang, 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 bang. Up, up, and we did it. And this guy lost the resign button too, if I recall rightly.
Yep, he did.
It's funny how that particular key is just gone. It is just gone. Well. Very, very instructive, senor. I like to say, Daniel, that the best ways to learn about chess is when you win a game, but there is still an immense amount of, you know, opportunities left in the game that we can do differently for the next time round to make it even better. So this is the ultimate win-win. We won the game and we learned an awful lot, hopefully, about the structure, about the mindset, the mentality, how the attack is conducted in the English, and so on. So
sure.
this is what I like the most, because when you lose and there is still a lot of, you know, these how we adjust the mindset, the calculation, the yada yada yada, that becomes after a while a little bit depressing and hard, really. And chess is hard. So I was super happy for you to rake in the 2 W's without too many dramas.